trigger the larger functions of, the police and what have you, and the justice system to get to me? Or who is it that's allowing me to do that? It's the people around.
I feel that anytime you have so let's say the fucking federal government's coming after you for smoking a joint, and you rid yourself of the federal government, and you're talking about the communities or the people actually running or making sure that everything is running in order and stuff. At that point, it's like I got to bring up the argument that corruption is like you're not going to deal away with it entirely. It's still going to be a factor. No. That's just a matter of life.
The problem is that people assume that the federal government and local government are the ones that need the power. It's that illusion of security that everybody is bought into and keeps buying into. And, like you just said there, that was a good point. People trust the government. You see it all over. It's virtually everyone you speak to distrusts the government but wants to give them more power. It's absurd. And that's why they get away with all the corruption. They're corrupt. When we're talking about a highly corrupt organisation that exists only now to put fear into the public through psyops and fake terrorism.
Ooh, I like this
level that it's at. It's been allowed to get to that level because people wanted the illusion of security.
Exactly. Security is not something I want. Exactly. I mean, I want security for myself, but I wouldn't rely on the government to get it.
You don't want to be a dependent.
Exactly. I don't want to be dependent of the state. But that's the direction the United States is headed.
The sad thing is that, we are reliant on the government. In a way,
I'm not dependent on the state.
You're more dependent than you think you are, apparently.
Well, economically, I'm fine. Well, to go to college, I'm getting help from the government, but for my survival, I don't have to have that.
Oh, you were saying something.
Oh, yeah. We go to the grocery store and we get our food from the government, and the government regulates all the food that is in the grocery store. So yeah, in a way, we kind of are dependent on that for survival. And
they don't regulate all that, though. They just tell you they regulate it, and then they might go down there once every 5 years to a farm and to check it out. It's bullshit. Again, what I said, it's the illusion. You are reliant on the farmer doing their job right, on the cashier doing their job right, on the shop owner doing the job right.
Yeah,
making sure the produce guy doesn't put the box of chemicals on top of the watermelons. I've seen that happen. And then I saw the watermelons getting sold. I wanted to say something, but I should have said something. Actually, I did say something now I think about it. But point is, most people would have just let that slide.
So, what's funny is the word that comes to mind here when it comes to your when it comes to dependency relationship with the state, the government, whatever word you want to use, is faith.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said I don't want more power to the government. I want the power of the federal government shifted to the counties. The states,
you want
it
reduced, though. Surely, the power of the.
I would like to reduce
the is if we're overwhelming.
Exactly, I'd like to see the power of the federal government dispersed out into smaller sections of the country, basically.
Do you realize?
Really, you're gonna. You've not heard of the Zimbardo prison experiment.
What?
Oh my god!
Let's go in that direction.
How old are you? About 21 or something, 21. Right? You've not heard of Zimbardo?
Heard of it?
Go and look up the Stanford prison experiment.
Absolutely
important that you go and look this up right now.
I've heard about that shit.
The Stanford prison
the
experiment?
Lucifer effect.
Yep.
Yes, I read that when I was in fucking high school. It was beautiful.
I have never heard of this.
This is why the government's got too much power. They don't want you to have heard of that. I guess we're from a generation where it went slightly wrong, and they told us about that shit. But then again, they told us about how much it costs to use rocket fuel to send stuff up into space. So that's why they went fucking wrong with me.
Castro, I would like to challenge you on that because I took 2 psychology courses, one in high school and one in college, and both of them discuss that. So
yeah, you took 2 psychology courses. I took 2 or 3 weeks of psychology, and she kicked me out. But
Wait, why'd she kick you out?
Because I was non-compliant, ironically. But,
I like you. Non-compliant. Nice.
Why were you non-compliant? Like, how were you non-compliant?
That woman was crazy. She had a problem with a lot of people, especially males who, she would say things like, she would just say bizarre things. A lot of people had a problem with her. Wasn't just me.
Kestrel, did you manage to tell your bud about his stank?
So, yeah, check out the Zimbardo prison experiment. The other thing about the way that
the Wikipedia article is very vague.
Well, most Wikipedia articles are very vague.
Can somebody give me like a verbal summary of it?
TLDR.
Okay, so pretty much what happened was they did this experiment where they had people who were the prison guards and they had people who were like the prisoners, and the prison guards ended up abusing their power and like really abusing their power and harmed and pretty much traumatized the prisoners.
And it was basically, the experiment was to show that nobody would do anything to stop it.
Yeah, pretty much, kind of.
In actual prison, it was a psychological experiment. They had a sample of Stanford students or whatever, and then when they got inside the experiment, it was a closed experiment, and then they told them they more or less set up the role play of the prison and the prisoners, and then they observed uncharacteristic cruelty or whatever and abuses from the people who had been chosen to role play as the guards.
Yeah, and I mean, people have kind of speculated the flaws with that experiment.
Yeah, there's some flaws.
There's also the Milgram experiment where people were ordered to give greater and greater electric shocks to people who they were.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that experiment.
Did the electric shocks actually genuinely shock the other person, or did the other person just act like they got shocked?
I believe it was fake.
No, they just shocked them.
The person doing
no, there was. Well, I know of an experiment where they generally shocked each other.
The one that I'm familiar
and that was
with
interesting.
Was an illusion. The person was behaving as though they were being shocked, and the person being the subject of the experiment was the person administering the shocks.
Right.
Another one is Solomon Asch conformity.
Oh, yeah, that one. I know what you're talking about now, specifically now.
I don't know if you've heard of Solomon Asch's conformity experiments.
I think I did.
Where people will basically conform to what the group is saying about the answer to a simple question like which line is longer, A, B, or C.
Yep.
And,
that one's an interesting too.
Groupthink. They know it's wrong, but they conform to the consensus.
Yeah.
And see, that's a quality that I don't possess. Generally, if it's something that goes against my moral code, I obviously will go against the rest of the group.
Wait till you're in that position before you make that statement.
Oh, I've been in that position before.
I question that.
Yeah, because see, like, there's something that comes over you, and I've been in that position before, and it's like, it paralyzes you because, like, you're afraid, and it's like,
I've been in a situation where I was in a group of like 20 people, and they all I can't remember specifically what it was, but they all wanted to do something I considered to be completely immoral. And I stood up for it and said, no, I wouldn't do it. They all went and did it. I didn't do it.
I'm going to go really low here. This is low-hanging fruit. I'm doing this with the preface that I'm doing this as low-hanging fruit. But even in the Bible, you had somebody denying Christ 3 times who believed he wouldn't.
You have a good point. But
when your life is on the line, when you're facing a mortal consequence, that changes the way you behave.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can, but there's examples of some people in society not doing that as well.
There are, but there's examples in the inverse as well, and You know, you're a Christian, and the Bible itself uses that as a prime example.
I think
me-
so. I would conclude that we will all figure out where we stand when it comes to something like that once we get
Fear is powerful, dude.
What ties this all together for me with respect to the politics issue of politics is have you heard of the what do they call it, the lever thought experiment, where you've got a train coming down the tracks and you see it it could go two directions. It's going to go down one way, but you see 5 workers on the track, and you know that if it carries on where it goes, then it's going to kill 5 people. But then you're on a bridge and you've got a lever that can change the direction and go the other way, but there's one guy there. Now, if you pull the lever, then you've essentially chosen to kill a person. But if you don't pull the lever, you've got nothing to do with that situation, and the 5 guys who were going to die anyway die. Most people would pull the lever because they would say that, you know, they would sacrifice, you know, they would rather one person die than 5 people die. But, you know, that guy, you're deciding to kill him, essentially. Now, the other part of the thought experiment is that if you are on a bridge again and there's the same situation set up, except no, there's 5 guys on the track and you're on a bridge and there's a fat guy on the bridge as well, and you know doesn't really make that much sense, but you know that if you push him off, that you could stop the train, and you know 5 guys would be dead, 5 guys would still be alive, but 1 guy would be dead. Most people would not do that, yet it's the same scenario. And what that tells us is that there's a element of ambivalence that comes to moral issues the more separated you become from them, you know, by degrees. Now, think about that in relation to the federal government. The federal government is far separated from the end user by many, many degrees, and that could be why you get the Church of Satan there, and you get the pentagram, and you get all this stuff, you know, and all the lies. But on a local level, it's harder. You know, it's a little bit more moral. You might consider.
Right, which is why I think that if anything, the local government would be better than the federal government making decisions.
The problem with that is that you get a few. You know, you go back to, well, one of the reasons, for instance, in Europe, is that we got Europe because of the feudalism between the states, but again, that was a little bit of a lie, because it may be that World War II was and World War I were entirely contrived. But
I like this guy.
That shows the guy with the sexy voice that, like, all of a sudden he'll just come in and be like, I think what you're misunderstanding here is the process of what's going on with the...
That is me.
In America, we're a sucker for that accent, dude.
I hear. Yeah, I think I should move, to be honest. Get a lot of work out of just my voice. Maybe some sex work. Who knows?
Call me.
So going back to our original thing that started this, so I think that in regards to this whole situation, when it comes to trying to make sure that people have a way to actually survive, like, for instance, food, shelter, and what was the other thing? There's like 3 things: food for survival, food, shelter, and that was it, I think.
Sexy clothing.
Basically, the basic needs of human being is being provided by how. Oh yeah, we were trying to discuss like how we could get society back in the direction of making it so both parents don't have to work.
Sex toys
on average.
Well, what was that? Not the sex toys part, the working part.
Well, our economy in its current state, both parents in a family, on average, have to work in order to provide for the family a comfortable means of living, and even in some cases, a survival.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it was, even like 30 years.
Nihilism is always the answer.
20 or 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. The man could just, or whoever, I guess, not to be sexist, but
Fucking misogynist. Dude.
usually.
God damn it.
Well,
The man
what
usually was
else
able to
about
go
it?
have a job and the mom stayed at home.
Yeah, the thing
That's
is
that's
that
usually
that crept in. You see, that's not as that sort of just happened. I mean, I know that it's possible that one of the motivations of World War II was to push women into the workforce and lower wages. That's potentially correct, but the reason why women sort of had to go to work, just going off my not had to go to work. It was like 30 years ago. So that was when I was growing up. You're a parent. You send your kids to school, so you've got so many hours of the day free. Now, if the man goes out to work traditionally, and the woman is the caretaker, I can hear a lot of background noise. I don't know where that's coming from. Then
Sorry, that's my that's my sex toy.
a lot of women would choose to go to work, and thereby creating a sort of competitive economy and an advantage to the family to have more income, so they would want to do that.
My point is not that they wanted to or that they were doing it. It's just my point is that the family could survive off of one person working or one of the parents working, not both. They could survive off of that.
I mean, it depends as to how many children are involved.
I think they still can, to be fair. I mean, if one person's working and they can afford a house, then, you've got so many benefits for families. I mean, over here you get child benefit and things like that. And over there, I know you get food stamps. I know that single parents can live perfectly well and get a farm going, of babies. So I wonder about the idea whether or not one person working can't support a family.
I'd like to challenge that because, like, my mom, she was a single parent, but she took care of me, and she's good.
Well, I'm saying that's a lot of the
Personal
case,
narratives are not good.
Areas that seems to be the case where both parents have to work. And both of my parents have to work they did until I moved out, to put a roof over me and my siblings' head.
Well, then we would have to look at what are you talking about here? I mean, I'm sure that you had a certain level of quality of life. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you went out on holidays and things like that. And
we haven't taken a good vacation in a few years.
You had an Xbox. You did this, you did that.
Yeah, most of that stuff I provided for myself.
Well,
there's actually a point where I was hoping my parents pay the rent too.
Yeah, I mean, you got
three people paying for the rent. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that.
Nihilism is always the answer.
I mean, where on earth are you living?
I'm in Washington State. It's got pretty freaking screwed up economy up here.
What kind of outlay for housing?
Well, I think my parents are currently living in an RV right now because they can't afford an actual house to rent.
Yeah, but what's the general price there?
For 1-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom, you're where I specifically live, you're looking at $900 to
my left kidney.
Yeah, I think staying mobile. People have got to move. That's just always been the case. But
yeah, I don't know why my parents
true.
moved.
True.
Because
I know we have a lot of friends and we have a lot of family in the area, but like,
Kishro, you make a lot of good points. You make a lot of good points. I just felt like I had a note there.
Yeah. Wait, so you live in Washington? Have you ever been to Spokane?
You mean Spokane? Gosh dang it, everybody screws that up when they're not.
Be nice. Dude, I'm in Louisville. You think we don't cut people slack when it comes to how our city's pronounced? Give me a break.
My grandma lives in Spokane.
Oh, Spokane.
What? Why did you ask?
Oh, I knew like one dude who lived in Spokane.
You've spoken it wrong.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Like, I'm bad at this. I'm sorry.
I was just joking with me getting upset.
Kishro.
Don't get upset. We're all friends here.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Just look at my beautiful hair. It's all good.
Castro,
How can I help you?
I asked you a serious question earlier. I asked you a serious question earlier. I asked you if you told the mate
In a serious voice.
if he done get rid of his stank.
I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest.
I think it was you who's telling us about having a friend who or
Oh, yes, Abe. Yeah, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the fella who smelt of wee.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks for the advice. It helped me. He was a lot better, actually, the
He's a
next
lot
time I
better.
saw him, thankfully. But he does have a little smell on him, but
Let's have a little
it's
smell.
more manageable.
It's more manageable. Okay. Well, you know, it sounds to me like you've done a successful job of running this individual person to scrub their anus.
It was his willy, probably.
It was just Willie.
And a tumbleweed drifts across the room.
So
Castro, do you think they got tumbleweeds where you're at?
No?
So, anyways, I'm thinking that, you know, I don't know. I think my freaking state's just
My
crazy.
pussy hurts.
I'm gonna
Abraham.
in a second, maybe.
Oh my goodness, Abraham. Mm.
I'm very sorry there. I just wanted to know.
You're
my
not. You're
vagina
not.
was hurting.
You're not like contributing to being productive to the conversation.
No, that was perfectly productive to the conversation.
It's
Still
very
talking.
important to discuss
talking, I'm just reminding
women's reproductive rights.
Abe, why aren't you on camera?
I don't feel confident when I speak like this on camera.
I miss you. Mm. And my ovaries explode.
But dude, I got some roasted salted nuts here.
Mm. I caught the innuendo there. Mm.
You're just trying to get out of talking about economics.
Castro, mate, you and I should have a beer sometime.
Oh, I think you scared him. Or maybe I did.
Oh my god.
So, am I getting the
I'm
vibe that
about to do
everybody's
some Mad Mexican
about
shit
politics
right now.
Is that what it is?
I'm gonna put some Tapatio in these nuts.
Mm.
You're gonna insert and just
Ooh, I like this guy. What is that you just poured in there?
I just told you Tapatio.
Tapatio. I mean, what is that though? Like,
Yeah, what is Tapatio?
let's get down to brass tacks here.
It's Mexican hot sauce.
Holy shit! Now I feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's called Everclear, not being an idiot.
Hey, Jeremy, do you think this economics discussion has run its course?
Well, it's an exhausting discussion, especially when I'm involved. So most likely.
Yeah.
But so long as it doesn't get into politics, which is we're all fatigued beyond the point of recuperation over here in terms of politics. So as long as it doesn't go there, I'm fine.
You're right. I need to charge my sex toy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I mean,
Politics for me is a very, very short discussion. Right now, if I want to discuss politics, I just want the other person to answer one thing. What is the resolution to the question of the ground beneath your feet? And if anyone can answer that question, then I will proceed. with the debate politics, but they can't explain to me the fundamental, right to the ground beneath your feet being taken away, and how that's going to be resolved.
Kestrel, that was amazing. It's amazing.
I'll just mute Abe because that's annoying.
No, don't do that. He's beautiful. Well, no, you're not. You can still see him. So
I can see him. Yeah.
The titillation is still in effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're born into this world, and yet you have no inherent right to some property, which I don't have a problem with.
I would argue that you have an inherent right to your body as a foundational stone.
But absolutely inseparable from the right to your body must be the right to the ground beneath your feet. Otherwise, what's the use of having a right to the body?
So if I stand on top of you, then I have a right to you?
Yes. Keep going. I like this. I want to see where this heads.
So
try and mitigate it. People need to be aware of how they're mitigating it. I mean, so far, like over here, you've got.
Where is over here, by the way?
The UK.
Okay.
And this goes back to the Magna Carta and the obligation of the Crown to take care of people.
Yep.
And this today, a representation of that today is we've got council houses and we've got social programs that mean that if you are homeless, then you have a right to be housed. And what will happen is if you go and say to the social security that you're homeless, so long as you have been in a local area for about a year, then you will be housed in temporary accommodation and then maybe a hostel. And it may take years for you to get somewhere, but holy shit.
Abe is trying to distract us.
It may take a while for you to get a council house and whatever based on your, and it might even be quicker for you because you get house. Everyone's entitled to housing benefit. I should have just skipped straight to that. Everyone's entitled to housing benefit and therefore some kind of accommodation. Though they're bringing the eligibility for that down, and so what they do now is that unless you're 35. You've got to do a house share. But that is still a representation of, the having a right to the ground beneath your feet somewhere. But they don't have that so much in the USA.
Yeah, things over here are a little bit different, and I have to plead ignorance when it comes to the nuances of how things work in the UK.
Well, the same in America, but I understand that if you're homeless, the government doesn't have an obligation to give you some kind of housing benefit.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't. In fact, it's you can actually.
I think I'm going to disagree with that.
If you're found trying to
sleep
in a public place, you can technically go into a lobby jail
to housing.
Well,
settle down, guys.
Like at least around here, I don't know. I'm to other areas of the United States.
Wait, no, that was a serious comment. Am I muted now?
I'm about to mute Abe if he doesn't stop talking, but about pointless things. Anyways, but basically,
Kestrel, I think I've got a big fat penis to show you.
I'm muting Abe. Abe, you're drunk. Go home.
I think
Abe's drunk. He needs to go home. Anyways, So basically, as I was trying to say, the thing about the United States is
we need to do this on
a lot of places have their own laws dealing with homelessness, but as far as I know, there are very few places in the United States where they do provide housing for you. In fact, it's usually the opposite. You will get in big trouble if you're caught somewhere loitering in a lot of cases.
Right, and even if you get yourself together and buy some property, I understand it in the US as well as the UK, the council will just tax the shit out of you until you can no longer afford to live there.
Exactly.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say until you can no longer afford. They want you to continue to afford it because you're a revenue generating unit for them.
Problem is they don't know when to stop, and so it just ends up that they have to sell the place anyways. Because the government's retarded. But anyways, that's a whole other discussion. But
Yeah, they
I
want
guess
they want to
fine
keep
with it,
they want to
but-
keep the money going from you, sure, but that's if you are not able to, then they want to kick you out. So that would be my point. There's no inherent right to a ground beneath your feet. But that's separable from the
No,
right.
that's correct. We have no. It's known as a allodial title. We do not have a allodial title to the ground we possess.
Well, and the whole concept of the ground beneath your feet too. Like, what if you were standing in a standing on someone else's private property? You obviously don't own the ground beneath your feet in that case.
Even if it's your private
that's what-
property, you don't have a allodial title to it.
Well, good point, but still.
At best, you
I'm
have
talking
mineral rights.
excluding the government. If you're stepping on, well, it's excluding the government as much as possible. If you walk into somewhere where it says "keep out," you're obviously in an area where you shouldn't be.
Right, that's fantastic. Thanks for that. Allodial title now can use
That's
that
the term. Yeah.
and look into that.
There are some benefits that come with being around this planet for 40 years. The accumulation of trivia is one of them.
Yeah.
Dude, in this country, we don't even own our cars.
What?
That's correct.
Well, we own them technically.
No, you
have to
possess
pay-
them. You don't own your car, dude.
Yeah, the car company and the insurance company own your car.
And even if you've paid it off, the state owns it. Look into it. I promise you.
Yeah, that's a good differentiation, the difference between ownership and possession.
I know at least one or two things about this particular subject from my obsessive libertarian days in my early 20s.
Yeah, well, this is where I generated the idea from, although I stopped looking into libertarianism a while ago.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. I can see how that might be true. To trap us back into a kind of feudal system.
Okay, I see. Are you talking about the fact that we have to pay taxes in order to even drive the car?
No, I'm talking about the fact that the certificate of ownership is owned by the state.
What?
Yes.
That doesn't sound right. So that if they wanted to, technically, if they became dictatorial at some point, they could literally take that away from you and give it to somebody else. Just
Because I'm lazy as hell and have some pure grain alcohol in me tonight, I'm just going to say Google knows.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I like that. Wait, have you ever done a let me Google that for you?
now.
Look into the manufacturer's certificate of origin.
Right, Jeremy. Have you ever done a let me Google that for you in an argument?
I haven't used that phrase, but the phrase that I've used is, oh, you know what? I know how to use Google. Give me a moment.
See, there's actually a thing where it's like a website. It's called Let Me Google That For You. And then it Googles the thing. And I've had people use that in arguments, and then I picked it up, and then I use that in arguments too, just to be a dick at times.
Yeah.
Well, Wikipedia just says the manufacturer's certificate of origin just says where it comes from.
But who owns that? What does that relate to?
Certificate of origin is employed to certify that a good being exported from either the United States into Canada or Mexico, or from Canada or Mexico into the United States, qualifies as an originating good for the purposes of preferential tariff treatment under the North American Free Trade Agreement.
And what about for the purposes of licensing?
Doesn't really say anything about that.
Why do you need to have a tag on your car to drive it on the road?
For the police to be able to identify it in case it gets stolen or is used in a crime.
That's an easy answer. Citation requested.
Okay, I will look up the purpose of a license plate.
Why do you have to pay taxes every time you renew your tags if you own the property?
You own the car. It pays for your right to be on the public roads with that car.
How certain are you that you own the car? Think about my question for a moment. How certain are you that you own the car?
I'm pretty certain because I paid my money for it, and all I have to do is pay taxes to be able to drive it on the road.
You're certain because you paid your taxes?
Well, I'm
okay,
okay,
Beavis.
never mind. I need to rephrase that. I'm certain I own the car. It's about whether or not I can drive it on the public road without paying those taxes or not. That's in question.
And how do you own a car? Did you pay cash for that car?
Theoretically, if I pay cash for the car, I would say I own it.
Or did you finance it?
Well, I don't have a car right now.
Well, okay, so we're talking in theory here.
Yeah. So theoretically, if I were to get a car, I'd pay cash for it.
You should look into what if a car dealer in Kentucky wants to buy a car from Tennessee and transfer it to Kentucky for sales. What do they have to go through? What processes do they have to go through to make that legally legit?
Could you repeat that again?
If you're a car dealer, not a consumer, a car dealer, and you're in state A and you want to buy a car from state B, transfer it to state A and sell it legally in state A, what do you have to do and what does that imply?
I'm not 100% sure on the exact details of that. I would say you probably have to pay some sort of sales tax to the state you bought it from.
But you're sure you own your car.
Yeah, why wouldn't you own the car? It's yours. You paid for it.
That's called faith.
In order to legally own,
Okay, in order to legally own anything, I guess you have to have a government backing that you.
a vehicle, motor vehicle,
Trying to go for.
as we define it, it must have a title. You can possess it, but unless you have all your paperwork in order, it's not an actual legal motor vehicle. It's not a car.
Right, but you can still own it and drive it on your own property. If you have your own property, assuming.
It's not a car though.
What a slippery slope we're teetering on at this point.
It gets pretty complicated, and it varies.
I see what you mean. So basically, the concept of owning something comes from our faith that the government will enforce that we own it.
I would put it in different terms. We don't give a shit if we own it as long as we can possess it and do whatever we want with it, more or less. And we don't give it a second thought. If you can go down to the drugstore and buy your beer and nobody will hassle you or take your car away from you, you don't really give a shit. And you haven't thought out the details involved in ownership versus possession. And I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just planting seeds.
All you're doing is confusing me, I guess.
Only because it's a subject you're not terribly familiar with.
A good point.
And there's nothing wrong with that. None of us can know everything.
I mean, what's some examples of how confusing the whole motor vehicle having and not having and being legal and all that is? Like, I have several cars that technically I'm going to have to go through a whole lot of rigmarole to get them to where I can go license it.
And you know what?
Once somebody else claims them.
Audra's in the discussion. Audra, do you own your guns?
I don't know. I have them. I'm kind of with you. I'm like, if I have them and I have all the control over them, then I'm not sure what the semantic,
Well, you have the right to shave the serial number off of your guns?
I do not have the right to shave the serial number off of my guns and then have my guns in certain situations without the expectation of some sort of
I never thought of that. If you build your own gun, you don't have to
off your guns. Do you own them? Is it your property exclusively? You aren't permitted to shave the serial numbers off your guns?
See, that's a slippery slope because it's not that you're not permitted to. You're not permitted to without consequence if they're in a certain context.
I'm very good at pushing people over the edge of slippery slopes.
Right, there's a lot of them.
I'm conceding that point. It's an easy thing to do, and I'm very good at pointing out the areas wherein I have mistrust for quote unquote authority, meaning the government.
Well, I don't really trust the government much either when it comes to like them being able to actually like forever be able to keep from becoming oppressive at some point. I think that all governments will eventually become oppressive.
Governments are just the biggest monopoly on gang activity in a particular region. That's all they are.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like from day to day, I'm always kind of balancing between what I think is actually the way things are and my knowledge of to what I consider more objective, honest situational reality and the actual just kind of practical day to day. Like, well, I understand this, but for today, I know that I'm ignoring that.
Yeah, these aren't issues that we have to
Always
confront.
is awareness of how much you're ignoring, but I do prefer to be aware of what I'm ignoring rather than not, which may or may not be a good thing.
If you own something, nobody else can tell you what you can or cannot do with it. It's basically that simple.
I mean, technically, with that logic, like if you have your own house, you don't really own it because at any point the government could come in and take it away from you.
Ding, ding,
That's
ding.
pretty true. But see, there's you get to an interesting discussion because there's a lot of this we talk about, and we talk about it as if it's a voluntary submission to the government's rules, right? But there's that overhanging threat of force, which is what makes it actually interesting.
Yeah, and it's all theoretical because we don't have to confront it.
Right.
Not yet.
Not
Confront
yet.
the force, it's you can say a lot, right? So you've got to decide: does that force exist?
After Hurricane Katrina, they went door to door and confiscated people's guns.
Where it becomes a problem, I think, is that if we don't confront it, in conversations, like this, because then most people don't realize what it is. Then they start going, oh, well, we'll just hand over this. So that's where, the illusion of security comes from, and they hand over more and more power and make that gang, more and more powerful. And they don't have any idea. They've not cognitively thought about the fact that they don't have any choice.
All right, I've thought about this a little bit, obviously not enough to the point where I was able to completely come to all the conclusions that we came to in this discussion, but I did understand the concept that if the government has too much power, then it's going to freaking cause problems.
Well, Andy, you yourself were talking the other day about eventually you expect that they'll be loading Christians onto cattle cars in this country, correct?
I don't think I'm the one who said that. And I think that was Mark.
Okay.
I would say I have no clue. I could see that happening. I could also see that being kind of an extreme statement.
But do you
I
think
don't think
that,
what the future. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that eventually, over time, if groups continue to be ostracized and oppressed, then it can continue to get worse and worse and worse.
do you think that when you're walking up the on-ramp to the cattle car, that's the time to complain? Or long before that?
Oh no, long before, and this is why I'm complaining now.
Yeah. So that's all we're doing here. We're just talking about this stuff.
Took a break
Right.
from a little bit of the cancer.
I don't think that it's going to be cattle cars. I mean,
I don't either.
They're going to do it by increasing the police state and the ridiculous laws, like they're doing here with hate crime and hate speech.
Oh yeah,
And,
like the whole thing about hate crime or hate speech, it's the most subjective type of law you could make. Like it's based off of nothing. It's
And-
only based off of feelings, not facts.
And to use Orwellian terminology, a hate crime by definition is a thought crime.
Well, yeah, it's not even the thought of the criminal; it's the thought of the person who wants to take on the offence. Like here, they
Good
find
point.
it if you want it. The misogyny. The police have been encouraging women to report misogyny as a hate crime, and they even said in the handy YouTube video and Twitter thing that they sent out, "Tell us how you feel." I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, that could lead to a lot of problems.
See, I don't
Like
know how
for-
it is. I don't know how it is in the UK, but in the United States, we have what's known as an unlimited right to contract. Debt is contractual. Marriage license are contractual. Gun license are contractual.
Right, and I don't like the idea that the government is tracking all of these things.
How does that relate to the hate speech thing?
Well, I've just it has something to do with what he just said, but
Yeah, that was what I was just asking him. Is it Jacob?
The reason that I bring it up is because I expect that if we do run into a scenario where you're in camps, and these are extreme examples because we're pulling from history,
yeah,
and that's useful, but it doesn't tell us verbatim exactly what's coming.
exactly.
Unlimited right to contract is a huge vulnerability when it comes to us surrendering our rights.
In what way?
Well, if you are required to, sign what is ostensibly a contract to drive a car down the road, you're giving up certain rights to do that. You've basically signed a contract with the state, giving them authority that will then potentially venture into what would normally be a right.
Right. It's one of those things that, yeah, I see this a lot with different things, but it's the idea that even if you're getting a positive result out of your agreement with the government, you're still assigning the authority to them.
Yeah.
Right, but some form of that is, I would say, as much as I hate to say it, is necessary to a degree. So, for instance, because it makes sense, so theoretically the government should be assuming we had no debt, the government should be a non-profit organization, right? But the deal with that is the government's also what fixes our public roads. Well, every time you drive your car over a road, you do a certain amount of damage to that road that will eventually need to be repaired. So it makes sense that you have to pay the government in order to run your vehicle on the public roads, because the government's going to be the one fixing it.
Only if you presuppose that roads are the monopoly of the government and not in private hands.
Yeah, you're presupposing that governments are the authority over the roads.
Who will take care of the roads? That's the big argument that comes up when people want to tackle.
I like it.
People who want to drive on the roads.
I like it. I like it when my taxpayer dollars.
I guess it's just assumed that the government's going to be the one
Hey
taking care of the road.
guys.
Well, usually
he's trying to
private
talk.
contractors
No.
that get
Yeah,
to do a lot of the work.
all the assumptions must be examined eventually.
No,
Not
he was
today.
trying to say something. No, fuck, I forgot your name. Abe. Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
you fucking.
Chloe's still listening to Abe. Okay, I got it.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Abe,
I'll be
like,
right back.
What were you trying to say?
Trying to say I like when my taxpayer dollars.
Okay, I'm making Chloe be quiet too now. They're having a different conversation.
That is some fucked up shit.
So I mean,
Fuck you guys.
another interesting.
No, he was trying to say something. He was trying to add to the conversation.
I mean, you think
He
about
was talking over us before, so you gotta accept that.
I hope Audrey
I mean,
can
the
see
point of the
chat
roads
right
is,
now,
or
'cause
good highways,
fuck you,
federal highways, is not to transport goods. It's to
Fucking
transport military
guy.
material.
Huh. On what basis?
Well, I mean, that was kind of the original design, because that was,
Oh, yeah.
because if you look at World War II, there was actually examples of one of the things that like the Nazis ran into is they had all this armament, they couldn't move it. And so there was kind of this lesson learned, if we're going to have all this mobile armament, we need to be able to move it.
Okay, bye, you fucking cucks.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
Yeah, so I mean, the interstate system in the United States, that's the intention of the interstate system.
Okay.
Now, we all love it, and we're like, yeah, goods and all this other stuff. But on a fundamental level, it's a defense.
Right, yeah, and that makes sense. But it basically, it's one of those things that it was made to benefit the military, but it just happened to benefit the people as well, even more so than the military.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not saying yes, that's not true. I'm just saying that's, we get this in our head that, the government is doing this to help us.
But,
You have to examine why things actually happen, even though they have an apparent benefit. Oftentimes, the benefit, it was not the intention. And you've got to examine those deeper layers. It's important.
Yeah.
Hey, Castro.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying about police, doing something on the basis of like someone turning around and being like, "Oh, that's."
I don't think Abe likes that he can't seem to mess with my FE. His FE does not work.
Wait, Audrey, what do you mean?
I think Audra might not be able to hear you, Chloe.
Audra, what do you mean?
Audra, can you hear
What do I-
Chloe?
Yeah, I mean, Abe comes in here just like all the. I mean, I like Abe, but he comes in here with his FE, hanging out and going, and just like totally derailing conversations and things, and trying to.
Oh yeah, that's as ignorant, but I'm just talking about Chloe.
Oh, what did Chloe say? Chloe asked me how, and I was talking about Abe.
I don't think you can hear her.
I have her unmuted, but she's not saying anything.
She was talking to me.
Oh.
Oh, now who's Effie's fucked up?
I don't claim to have her.
Yeah, that Abe is ignorant when he does that. That's not funny or respectful to anyone. Talking over people like that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's his problem. Anyway, yeah, Chloe, what were you saying to me?
Oh, well, I had a question. You were talking about the police and how they, there's like a thing, like a quota, I guess, about arresting people over the basis of misogyny.
Yeah. Do you want an article about that or something?
Like, that's actually a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was already a thing because the law on hate speech it applies to women, but they just started really kind of pushing it, and in a way, it's one of those things where the police decide, whether or not they want to start prosecuting these things. But it's a silly system. This is I'll get you a.
Once you start making laws based off of people's feelings rather than facts, you start having issues with being able to actually have a society that functions properly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that because, that's like, somebody, like some radical feminist could just come along and just, a guy could say hi to her or something, and then she could say, "Oh my God, this is misogyny. This guy sexually harassed me," and play the victim like that.
This is one of the things.
On top of that, what's to prevent people from lying too, just because they don't like somebody? Hey, this person was here. I don't have any evidence for it, but it made me feel bad. You should put him in jail. Government.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed. This is the form that the issue of what you were talking about earlier of carting people off, to camps, is going to take. It's a because women have been dumbed down and have been catered to. They were already a privileged group, and what's happened is they've been told that they're victims, and they've been made into an even more privileged group, and they've gone along with it because there's been I tend to think maybe there's probably not been some kind of chemical dumbing down as they want to. As some people, maybe Alex Jones wants to tell us, but there is a general stupidity that's been catered to, and if you can cater to the people who are sub 100 IQs and manipulate them to make them think that it's legitimate that they should be going around ruling the world based on their feelings, then you've got a kind of you've got an oppressive force there. But there's all kinds of things in society that are put out there to divide us. It's divide and conquer. It's simple. Here they're doing it with the sexism, fake terrorism, doing it with the racists.
I think it also depends as to the severity and extent of sexual discrimination, because I heard that when I was working at Dollar General, my boss told me that a boss at another Dollar General was refusing to hire women. He was only hiring men. And it's kind of that sort of thing, in my opinion, is wrong. But
the other thing I would ask too, I mean, granted, I think it's wrong to just straight up say I'm not hiring women, but I would question, okay, so is it like a job such as construction where you would expect a lot of prowess? Okay,
no, yeah. It's like Dollar General, cashiering, for fuck's sake.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a problem. Because I think the one thing is, there's a lot of points when it comes to stuff like that. But the other thing, I think society's gone to an extreme where what they're not taking into account is there are actual facts of the differences between men and women. For instance, men on average are a lot stronger and have a much better physical prowess than women do.
Upper body strength, maybe not lower.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends, because I think that we have this kind of
powerlifter.
Yeah,
I
we
think-
always have this like bad attitude about like men because we always assume, oh, they're just supposed to be like really strong. But I've seen some pretty weak ass men in my
Well,
life.
I have too, but the point is like I said, that you got to take exactly what I said. On average, if you took the average man and then put him in an arm wrestling match with the average girl, he would win every time.
What about a leg wrestling match?
Probably.
Hey, Kestrel, I got a question, and this isn't a loaded question. I'm just genuinely curious. What's your opinion of Nigel Farage?
He's probably a Mason, and but he acts in his own best interests. A lot of people, I've watched him a lot of his body language and statement analysis, and I believe that he's obviously connected. These political elites don't get where they are without being connected, and they've got strong connections to each other. They know what's going on. Like the Brexit thing, I don't think most people wanted to do it because the general consensus in the political elites was that it's going to be easier for us to rule over these people. Where's that noise coming from?
I find him enormously entertaining.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah. But they wanted the European government because naturally then they've got a backstop. They can blame the European government for anything going wrong, and that's the reason why everybody there was against Brexit. He was for Brexit because you can imagine the local Masons want to have more power. They don't want to be usurped by the European Masons. So he's not somebody that acts selflessly, But
Who does at that level?
well, anyways, but
Indeed.
I'll give a better point than the one I made with the arm wrestling match, and this is one you can find in real life a lot more often, which is the idea of the whole thing where there's politically there was this issue with like, why aren't there as many women in special forces? Well, the deal is the special forces have their tests you have to pass. And it would be damaging to the special forces units and the military in general if we lowered those standards just so women could be part of the special forces. Now, if a woman can pass those standards, then I have no problem with them being in special forces. But if we have to lower the standards in order for that to happen, that's obviously a problem.
I'd like to add on the topic that I've heard. I don't know if it's the Navy or if it's like something else, but when women try to join it, they usually end up getting raped, and that sucks.
Okay, well, that's a completely different issue to begin with.
Okay.
That's a cultural problem within the organization.
That's not, yeah. So, like, I think there's obviously going to be issues in different places for different things, but what we shouldn't accept as a society is damaging like things just so certain people can just be placed in there because they have a right to be there rather than they have the capability to be there.
There's also a strong, just like getting pregnant, there's a strong reason to claim rape, in those
Well, and another
situations.
thing I'd like to point out is a lot of times, like especially I think it was before we went in, I think it was in the 90s to the Middle East. I can't remember what those wars were called off the top of my head because I'm an idiot. But anyways, basically, I've heard a lot of stories where women specifically that had enlisted into the military got pregnant on purpose so that they could avoid having to go into combat. And that was an actual issue that happened.
That's also another issue.
Yeah, so that's also a cultural issue. Like, if you join the military, you sign the dotted line. Like, if you're gonna do something like that, like, you shouldn't even have been in the military in the first place. What are we paying you for? We were paying you to defend our country, and now you just back out at the last minute, even though we paid for all of your training and all of your equipment.
But you know what? I've seen instances where males have pulled the same, not the same in the particulars of it, but stunt to get out of that kind of shit as well.
Right, but it happens. I think it's just in general the thing, but specifically, I think I don't know. I just know that the thing with the women is a more that issue is more prevalent, I'd say, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So, like, the point is both genders have their problems.
We're talking about defining ownership. Natural law cannot be invoked on a yet undefined term, surely.
Interesting.
What's this?